stuff you like, and for my second Patreon requested episode we're going to be talking about Jesus Christ Superstar. Yay. But this episode I'd like to talk about Mary Magdalene because really, Andrew Lloyd Webber, even the Catholic Church had got around to correcting their mistake by the time you made this musical, and yet you still got it wrong. Mary Magdalene, almost certainly not a prostitute. This is, of course, assuming that she and Jesus existed and such like, but if you take that as read, on the balance of evidence, it's just not likely. Mary Magdalene is mentioned about a dozen times in the Gospels, which is more than any other woman who wasn't Jesus' actual mother, who was also a Mary. And I'm going to be saying Mary and Mary Magdalene because that is the character's name and that is the anglicised version of the name, but really I mean Mariam. Mariam basically being the 1st century Judean version of Chris. Look, she's not that Chris. See, in the book of Exodus, Mariam is the sister of Moses and Aaron, and she's a prophet, and she's the leader of the Hebrew women. And if you're thinking to yourself, wow, I bet in 1st century Judea that was a really popular name for girls, you would be correct. Others include Mary the mother of Jesus, Mary the sister of Martha, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and Mary the mother of Clopas. Yeah, I know, imagine trying to keep all your Marys straight, it would have been a nightmare. But we're talking Mary Magdalene, which is to say Mary of Magdala, because it's not so much her name as her place of origin. Here are the things that we learn about Mary in the Gospels. 1, she is a woman from whom Jesus cast 7 demons. 2, she's one of the women who support Jesus financially. And 3, she's one of the first witnesses to the resurrection. So where did this idea of Mary as prostitute come from? A sermon by Pope Gregory in the 6th century. He got his Marys crossed, and it took the Catholic Church until 1969 to go, whoops, our bad, maybe that wasn't the same person. There is an awful lot of rot talked about Mary Magdalene. Like, I once saw an article which claimed that she got associated with prostitution in the great church history game of telephone. No, it was Pope Gregory in a sermon in the 6th century. We know exactly when it happened. There is no prior record of her being referred to as a prostitute. None. I saw another one that came out around the time of the Vinci Code, which, while correctly claiming that Mary Magdalene was probably not married to Jesus, also made the extraordinary claim that she was serving dinner at the Last Supper. No. Look, if you're going to claim to be canonical, at least be canonical. That said, the article was correct that there isn't any evidence that she was married to Jesus either. I mean, come on. If your husband had just died and then came back to life and you saw him standing in front of you, would the first thing you yelled be, "Teacher"? I mean, it wouldn't be the first thing I would say. But here's the thing that is canonical. Mary Magdalene was one of the women who were financial benefactors of Jesus. And to really hammer this point home, I don't know a ton about prostitution in the 1st century Roman Empire, but I'm gonna guess that it wasn't terribly lucrative for the women involved. Just a hunch. Plus, if people got their knickers in a knot about all the time Jesus spent hanging around undesirable people like tax collectors, you'd think that someone would mention them carping about Mary Magdalene, right? But nope. Benefactor of Jesus, witness to the resurrection, one of the women who travelled with him, and nary a word about her background other than from Magdala. Was she important to the Jesus movement? Heck yes. You can tell a lot about how significant someone is based on where they come in a list of names. In the list of women who went to anoint Jesus' body, she comes 3rd after Jesus' mother and Jesus' aunt. In every other list she's mentioned in, she comes 1st. But as to this version, nah, I'm not buying it. And that incidentally goes double for some kind of Da Vinci Code-esque conspiracy about her being the mother of Jesus' children too. Okay. Well, next time we are diving into the meat of Jesus Christ Superstar. Hooray. So I will see you then. If you'd like to support the show and make me review terrible things, you monsters, you can exercise your preferences on Patreon. Otherwise, I will see you next time.